European leaders have struck a deal with the Tunisian president aimed at building economic ties and tackling the flow of illegal migrant boats to Italy. The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, and the outgoing Dutch leader, Mark Rutte, along with the Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission President, have been working for some time to convince President Kais Saied to limit migrant departures and the network of smugglers in the country, that in exchange for a financial package. Let's listen to Ursula von der Leyen and the Tunisian President.
We have signed a memorandum of understanding together, and it will soon be accompanied by reciprocal obligations. We need a collective agreement on the problem of migration and the criminal networks that exploit the situation.
We will work with Tunisia on an anti-smuggling operational partnership. We will also increase our coordination on search and rescue operations. And we agreed that we will cooperate on border management, anti-smuggling, return and addressing root causes in full respect of the international law. For this, we will make available more than 100 million euros of EU funding.
Now, to look at this more closely, let's turn to William Lawrence, a professor of political science and international relations at American University in Washington, D.C. Hi to you, William. Now, this memorandum of understanding includes a large range of issues. It's not solely about the migration flows. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, we don't have all the details yet, and there will be a number of agreements that ought to be negotiated based on this memorandum of understanding. But the Tunisian president famously said just recently that Tunisia did not want this agreement and did not want to be the border guard of Europe. But Europe sweetened the deal on their educational and cultural and training components. And many of the projects that Tunisia might not have been getting from the World Bank because of the recent disputes over Tunisia's governance and the problems that Tunisia is having with the World Bank and the IMF. So Europe hasn't really come to the rescue, but it's offering enough that each side gets what it wants. Europe wants help with migrants, and Tunisia wants help.
So specifically on this migration issue, Kais Saied has come under criticism for the way migrants from sub-Saharan Africa are being treated in the country. He's been very controversial in some of his statements. There have been racially motivated attacks. Certain migrants, William, have fled the country. Is there a way that the EU can influence Tunisia in terms of the way migrants are treated?
Yes, things are really bad for migrants in Tunisia right now. There have been deaths at the Libyan border, sort of desert marches at the Algerian border, and then Tunisia is being transported by trains, forced that way, to move them into other locations. So, and this is all based on a racist version of the European Great Replacement theory that's been promulgated in Tunisia to say basically that evil Western NGOs are trying to replace Tunisians with Africans. And it's a really bad climate where popular crowds are attacking migrants. And this has been widely reported. And so in that context, while this memorandum of understanding doesn't directly address those issues, it does start a conversation about borders, about migrants, that I believe the European Union is going to try to use to leverage into a conversation about better treatment of migrants across the board in Tunisia.
Can you see a situation in which this deal would be key in getting better treatment for migrants?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the long-standing problems that everyone's had with European assistance towards Tunisia under the Barcelona Accords for decades is that there are all kinds of provisions for human rights and respect for law that are rarely leveraged by the European Union. They just give the money and don't do much on these issues. But once again, we have an opportunity where the Europeans could leverage assistance to get the type of actions it wants with its partners in the south of the Mediterranean, if it wants to do it. Whether Europe will have the political will to put those types of pressures remains to be seen. Meanwhile, a lot of members of the European Parliament are saying there shouldn't have been such a deal because of these serious human rights concerns in Tunisia, not just about African migrants, but about democratic backsliding, which have shocked a lot of people in Europe and around the world.
Thank you. William Lawrence, a professor of political science and international relations at American University in Washington.